Today we are covering designing Microsoft Azure infrastructure solutions. To find the complete list of questions and answers, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. Question is, you have an Azure subscription. You need to recommend a solution to provide developers with the ability to provision Azure virtual machines. The solution must meet the following requirements. First, only allow the creation of the virtual machines in a specific regions. Second, only allow the creation of specific sizes of virtual machines. What should you include in the recommendation? Option A. Conditional access policies. Option B. Role-based access control RBAC. Option C. Azure Resource Manager ARM templates. Option D. Azure policy. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, you have the resource shown in the following table. CDB1 hosts a container that stores continuously updated operational data. You are designing a solution that will use AS1 to analyze the operational data daily. You need to recommend a solution to analyze the data without affecting the performance of the operational data store. What should you include in the recommendation? Option A. Azure Cosmos DB change feed. Option B. Azure Data Factory with Azure Cosmos DB and Azure Synapse Analytics connectors. Option C. Azure Synapse Analytics with Polybase data loading. Option D. Azure Synapse link for Azure Cosmos DB. Correct answer is option C. Next question is, you have data files in Azure Blob storage. You plan to perform the files and move them to Azure Data Lake storage. You need to transform the data by using mapping data flow. Which service should you use? Option A. Azure Data Box Gateway. Option B. Azure Databricks. Option C. Azure Data Factory. Option D. Azure Storage Sync. Correct answer is option C. Next question is, you have an application that is used by 6,000 users to validate their vacation requests. The application manages its own credential. User must enter a username and password to access the application. The application does not support identity providers. You plan to upgrade the application to use single sign-on SSO authentication by using an Azure Active Directory Azure AD application registration. Which SSO method should you use? Option A. Password based. Option B. OpenID Connect. Option C. Header based. Option D. SAML. Correct answer is option A. Next question is, you plan to deploy 10 applications to Azure. The applications will be deployed to two Azure Kubernetes Service AKS clusters. Each cluster will be deployed to a separate Azure region. The application deployment must meet the following requirements. First, ensure that the applications remain available if single AKS cluster fails. Second, ensure that the connection traffic over the internet is encrypted by using SSL without having to configure SSL on each container. Which service should you include in the recommendation? Option A. AKS Ingress Controller. Option B. Azure Traffic Manager. Option C. Azure Front Door. Option D. Azure Load Balancer. Correct answer is option C. Next question is, you store wave access logs data in Azure Blob storage. You plan to generate monthly reports from the access logs. You need to recommend an automated process to upload the data to Azure SQL database every month. You should What should you include in the recommendation? Option A. Azure Data Factory. Option B. Data Migration Assistant. Option C. Microsoft SQL Server Migration Assistant SSMA. Option D. AZ Copy. Correct answer is option A.